Okay, so for the technique part of this post, I want to do something kind of abstractly, and I'm going to be thinking Haystack Rock and Cannon Beach, and here's some of my photos. Now, I'm not going to be looking at these while I do this because I tried that and I was getting too literal, and I kind of got off the whole idea of what I wanted to do, which is much more abstract. But I'm seeing these formations and then all this light and dark, all this high contrast, and I love that. This is really pretty. This might be something that I will work into my piece. Here's some other ones. And anyways, it's a beautiful place to go. It's just incredible. And we went during a time where it was kind of misty, but then the sun was kind of peeking through, so the lighting was just unbelievable. So anyways, I'm going to have this to the side. I'm not going to be looking at it per se, but it's there. And so I have this piece of canvas, and it's used canvas. So I covered, I put a layer of gesso on top of it so that, you know, I'd have a clean surface to work from. But as you can see, there's still some stains with that, and I don't care. I mean, that, to me, that kind of adds to anything happening further on with this piece. So and then I was playing around with some stitching, and so I thought I'm just going to leave that in because we are going to be doing some stitching, and I'll be showing you that, and we'll be doing stitching, and then we'll be like gessoing over it, which is pretty much of what I did here, which creates this kind of cool little suture look. So I wanted to keep that to remind me that I wanted to demonstrate this. And so we'll be working with loose charcoal, and I have these little pounce things that I made, and I'll show you how I make them. Here, I'll move this out of the way. You need to get a piece of jersey, some round jersey. Just cut a circle from some kind of jersey fabric, and then you need some cotton balls. So you need to have some cotton balls, and then you get your loose charcoal. And since I have this open, I might as well fill it up. So I have about 3 or 4 cotton balls, and that just gives you a shape. And then you can get your loose charcoal and put it in there. Then you add your cotton balls, and then you tidy it up by just like this, and then getting a rubber band or hair band and tightening the whole thing up. You can buy these things online for like 40 bucks, and there's no need. I make my own. I did partake at one point. I don't even know where it is, but I made these, and these work just fine. So don't spend the $40. So then what it does is it just gives you a nice, well, I'll just show you on here. It just gives you a soft application. And see how that the stitching, all of a sudden you can see it, which is pretty cool. So this is how I'm going to start out the piece. I kind of have that image over there, but as I said, I really don't want to duplicate it because it just gets away from the whole idea of making this a really abstract, moody piece. And I mean, you can use this technique to do a portrait. You just use the same thing. So what I'm using is, I have my gesso, I have my loose charcoal, I also have this XL charcoal, which is very pigmented. I have walnut oil, and you can use walnut oil or linseed oil, and then I have charcoal pencil, I have a regular pencil, and I mean, so far that's all I'm going to be using, and then some thread. I have the floss, and the floss I'm using, the embroidery floss, I'm using 2 strands of the embroidery floss. And oh, another thing I wanted to add was, I wanted to add some, I'll get it in a minute, the Quin Gold. I have some Quin Gold acrylic, Quin Gold, quinacridone nickel azo gold, and then I also have some Payne's Gray, and I use some of that paint, and I'll be using some of that paint in there as well. So, but for right now, I'm just pouncing this charcoal. Like so, just really abstract. I mean, you can even apply to get a heavier, here, I'll put it over in here. Make sure you're working in an area where you have lots of space to get messy, because this is very messy. Now, I use my fingers a lot, and I know some people they just can't stand that. And, you know, you can use a brush. I just am so used to working with my fingers with a lot of my stuff that I just feel like I have that instant contact to the surface that I really like. Okay, and now to get it so it's a lot more, and also it's all already atmospheric looking. And get your walnut oil or linseed oil. And I mean, I just put it in my cap here. And you can get paper towels. And paper towels is another good way of applying this stuff. So it's just kind of, there's a stain. I'm just creating a stain. And maybe I'll add some of the charcoal to get some heavy duty. It's a little too much oil. You see how it leaves that nice stain? I'm going to start stitching in a minute so that this stuff will make more sense. You can lift some of the charcoal with the oil. And see how it makes this beautiful, beautiful stain there. Let's see. Just make sure it's coming out. So right now I'm just wanting to create some nice stain. See how simple and beautiful that is. Maybe I'll go along here. Yeah, that's pulling that stitching in a little better there. But I'm thinking, like with the stitching, I was thinking with Anselm Kiefer, his work and incorporating the straw that he uses, and so that's why the stitching I thought would be a great way to kind of represent that. And see, you can just see it's just this really simple atmospheric sketch. And then that oil just is a beautiful stain. And then how does the charcoal go on on top of the oil? It's just play. Right now I'm just playing. Okay, so that's a good first layer. And it looks, I mean, it looks like a landscape. It kind of looks a little like what I photographed, but it's much more abstract. I like putting these little ovals. I tend to add like ovals. They seem to be a theme in my work. And then just leaving some of the outline. So isn't it beautiful? Just with the charcoal and the oil is so, it's just a lovely combination. And so I think this is super cool So I'm going to show you how I achieved that. I was going to just take that out and start with a blank piece, but I thought, oh, I kind of want to just keep that in and show you guys, you know, that you can, this process, you could do some stitching and then go on top of that and do it. You know, there's just, I'm just experimenting. I'm like, believe me, this is not like planned out. This is like just, I had an idea and I thought, oh, well, maybe this will work. And so I'm experimenting, and that's what my work is. And that's a lot of what my Patreon platform is to, you know, is to get you guys to just play with your stuff in your studio and do things that, you know, maybe aren't necessarily supposed to work together. I'm just going to get some pencil and just get some linear stuff in here. It's going to be a little hard to see this pencil, but I'm using a 0.3 pencil, so it's a very fine pencil. But I just wanted to get some linear energy going. And I'll take close-ups of this so that you can see, because it is quite subtle. And as I said, the pencil mark is very, very fine. And that's what I like about it, is that it's a super fine linear element. It's almost like they're just bursting a little bit. Just energy. And this might be, in fact, I'm getting an idea just doing this of where I want to start stitching. And it's going to be in along these areas here. So I think if I'm kind of mimicking this line work, it's I'm going to use just one strand of floss, and then when I go into more dense areas where I want to create more of a shape, I'm going to go in with the two strand. But yeah, I'm being very intuitive. I'm just like thinking, okay, what are all the things that I love to play around with? And, you know, and I'm just restricting myself to just a few things. And so this is kind of what's happening. But it's almost like watercolor with that oil. The oil just makes everything so beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to go get some thread, and then we're going to start playing around with that. Oh, a quick heads up. You can, I've kind of burnished in the oil quite a bit, so the oil is kind of in the substrate, so that's fine. I'm going to spray this with an a fixative so that when I'm stitching, it's not, you know, bleeding all over the place. So that's what I'm going to do before I start stitching, is just spray it with a fixative. Okay, so here's what I'm doing with this stitch. I'm just, it's a straight stitch, but I'm doing it in areas and in different directions. And what I'm trying to achieve is I'm going to have this be much more dense like it is here, and then it's going to start going up like little by little, smaller and smaller, and then more stitching closer together, and then as it's going up, as it's dispersing, the stitches will be further apart and smaller. So it's just creating a gradation is what I'm doing. And so far I haven't crossed over. I'm just, yeah, I think I will now. So it's just a straight stitch that I'm doing. But as you can see, I'm just doing it in all different directions. I'm just going to densely fill this area. And change the direction around. Sure that you can see. Oh, I'm going to notice the light here. Okay. Okay, so you're just going to see me almost like, yeah, I'm going to kind of follow this shape up here. And then as it gets up here, I'm going to do less and less. So when I get to that point, I'll come back on camera. I'll show you what I've done, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I wanted to show you what all I did with this piece, and it's just that that straight stitch that I did. Here, I'll pull it in a little bit more. And so I actually I got a plate and I made a oval shape so that it had some type of shape going up here. And as you can see, I started with bigger stitches, and then I started going smaller and smaller until there was just a few coming up here. I think probably what I'll do is I'll probably add some more and just have some of the smaller ones just kind of trickle down with this to just give it some movement. But that's all I did. I just did that same stitch, and I think I actually used one strand of floss for this. Now the other thing that I worked on is I did this loopy stitch, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And I was mimicking the scribbling that I did with pencil, and I ended up using like regular thread for this. It's a little thinner than one strand of floss, and it's just it's more wiry. But I also, to make it wiry like this, and I'll demonstrate it. I have my I'll pull it out a little bit. I have my quinacridone nickel azo gold and my Payne's gray. And what I did is I just I got my thread, and with I just painted this, And so it makes it so these stitches stick up, and I really like that. I like that element of it mimicking this scribble, and also because it is wiry like this, that it does stick up and gives, you know, it just gives a little more dimension, which I really like. And I just started playing with that with this. I've done the loopy stitch before, but I've never kind of incorporated it like that, so that it actually looks like it's you know, I'm viewing this more and more like a painting, and and the stitching is all mark making and line work. I don't consider this really an embroidery piece at all. So to just kind of demo as far as the thread goes, you know, I just get my thread here, and again, I'm using my fingers. You can use a brush. And it's just as simple as that. It's just darkens that up, and and then it kind of gets away from being like a thread. It just becomes almost like a thin wire, which I really like. And then I just added like a little bit of Quin Gold. Just, it makes kind of a patina type of look to it. And I'll just do that along there. And then it just transforms this thread. Just do a little more, get everything I can out of it. And then and then I just wrap it back up on the spool until I'm ready to use it. Okay, so that's that. All right, I'm going to go clean my fingers, and then I'll be back. Oh, before I clean my fingers, I'm just going to rub some of that color in here a little bit. I'm going to go in with some of the gold and see how that looks. Not a lot. I don't want to put a lot of color in this. Let's see if I'll do a little over here. Just to add a little more contrast. Even just like a little area like that. I like that. Okay, I wanted to show you that looping stitch, and so I have my, and I'm using 2 strands, so it's going to look completely different than what I did on this painting. So what you do is, here, I'll pull up. I started like a row of these. I'm going to even go closer. Okay, so I pulled it up here, the thread, and then I'm going in right next to that hole. And you create this loop. Okay, and then to tack it down, you just go in, like in between. Like that. And then you go back in that hole. And it'll tack that loop down. So when you pull it, it's not going to pull through. Here, I'll do a couple more. Then right next to it, I always leave a little tiny space, because that's where I want the needle to come in, and tack it. Make sure I'm on camera. Okay, I'm going to come up in that middle between the two strands. Pull, pull, pull until I get what I want. And then I just go back in over one of the sides of the loop. You just need to tack it down in one place. And there you go. And you can make them different sizes. Come back in here. Make some a little bit longer. Go back in the middle. See, if you go like this, it's just gonna pull it through. So when you tack it down to one side, it does not pull through. And that's all there is to that stitch. And I'll show you the variety of it is these two are the same stitch. And the only difference is this is much thinner, and also because I added the paint to it, it made this stand up and be wiry, where this is more loopy and loose and flips around. This really is much stiffer, and it just gives a whole other look to it. Like if I would have done that on here, it just would have overpowered the pencil mark for one thing, and it's just not the look I want to achieve. But this is good for other things. It's just having this type of look is wonderful in other areas. So that's basically it. I mean, the stitches are pretty simple. It's that loopy stitch, and then that straight stitch that I made into a pattern and gradually made smaller and smaller and smaller. And so I'm going to do some more on this, and then I will, post pictures of it close up so that you can really see what I did. And then that'll be it for this lesson this month. And I hope you enjoy it. And I will see you next month with a new project and a new prompt. Bye.